But what we found is that there are guys that are these gurus that will teach you how to build or how to get doors, but they don't teach you how to create a business.
If you're within 3 feet of me, we're probably talking about real estate, much to my family's chagrin. But here's the thing. Most people see 7% rates and freeze. I see opportunity. They're waiting for the perfect deal, and well, I've analyzed thousands of them, and perfect just doesn't exist. So I talk to operators across every asset class, flippers, multifamily syndicators, note investors, and whatever else is working. No sales pitches allowed, just real lessons from people actually doing it. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground. Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. It is Ed Matthews with the Real Estate Underground. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm grateful that you're making us a small part of your day. Keep those comments coming because obviously that gives us guidance on the topics that we talk about. I'm grateful for all of the texts and all of the comments that you guys leave for me. I read every single one of them, so keep them coming. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, JB Thibodeaux from JB Thibodeaux Homes and Properties. He comes from a part of the world that I am really in love with, although I'm going to mispronounce it. I'm going to say New Orleans. I think it's pronounced Nolans, but I live north of the Mason-Dixon line, so you'll have to give me a little bit of grace.
No problem.
But nevertheless, JB, welcome to the show. It's really good to have you on, my friend.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. And I definitely appreciate being here and having this opportunity with you. So, yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, for those folks who haven't discovered you on LinkedIn or any other of the socials, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for a living?
Hey, man, I'm JB Thibodeaux with JB Thibodeaux Homes and Properties. I'm a residential home builder here in the Houston, Texas area. I started off in this game as a third-generational carpenter and concrete specialist. So I pride myself as being a true tradesman who has a passion, as you can see, of being on the sites every single day. But we do anywhere from mass development to pocket development to just some very infill development that can range from affordable housing to multifamily. And we sprinkle in a few custom homes here and there and things like that. And our portfolio is vast. And just this year, I guess they crowned me as the Duplex King here in Houston, Texas, because we just do quite a bit of those duplexes here.
It's good to be the king, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's a bit of blessing, but they said it, not me.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, definitely. At some point, you got to believe your press clippings, right?
I'll receive it. Yes.
Cool. All right, cool. So congratulations on the business that you've created. And in terms of where you're focused, I hear you saying you're a developer. You build duplexes, multifamily. Talk to me about your bread and butter. And obviously you're the king of duplexes, so I assume that's the path we're going down.
Yeah, our client, that's a great question. Our bread and butter is just really, I coined this term of pocket development. Taking the philosophy of mass development, bring it within the municipality, still using that framework of doing infill development, but subdividing the lots to create more structure. And so every client that comes to us have a different strategy, and we pride ourselves of being the concept to keys guys. So everything that you would need, if you just have a concept in mind, we have it all under our umbrella from pre-construction to the actual construction to we're actually giving you the keys of your development. And so most of our clients come in from all walks of the country and different professional backgrounds and things, and they want to get into this game of real estate, and we come up with a strategy so they can maximize the return on their investment.
Excellent. Excellent. Congrats. So when you say subdivide, so are you building to sell those duplexes to families, or are you keeping them for rentals, a mix? Like, how does that work?
And I want to say it's a 60-40 range. When we look at our pipeline of our clients in the different strategy, we get a lot of folks from different states or some Yankees out there. Your neck of the woods.
I resemble that.
They come into our area. One of the things that is attractive about Houston, we're the largest major metroplex in the whole United States that has no zoning. And so when you have no zoning, the sky's the limit when it comes to development. But we do have this tricky thing called deed restrictions, covenants, and easements that kind of limit the type of development you can do. So it's very attractive to out-of-towners to come in this area to do these things we call pocket development. And so, man, we sit them down and we structure a play where some of our clients were to build a hold and they will rent out. But after we go over the numbers in the cards, so the market kind of dictates the direction their development will go.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that market.
Yeah.
We had a gentleman on earlier that was talking about the Dallas Fort Worth area. So I'm curious about Houston. No zoning boggles my mind because that's something I battle on a daily
Yeah.
basis here. I'm in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Boy, that would make my life so much better.
Hey, man, you would think that, Ed. We have no zoning, but this thing called deed restrictions and covenant. A lot of people hear no zoning. Yes, it is true. You can have a liquor store next to a hospital, next to a church, next to a strip club. Those type of things happen, but it does give the communities a lot of power because these deed restrictions and covenants can change. And as from a developer's perspective, that means we have to be really keen on where we purchase our properties at because every community can be different. So you can't take a blanket approach to the whole city of Houston. You really have to chime into the different pocket neighborhoods and come up with a system for that particular neighborhood. And for one, it could be a benefit, but then it can also be a curse. But that's why you need some boots on the ground to make sure this thing work.
Yeah, to understand it, how it all fits together, right?
Yeah. And a lot of times, a lot of people will ask, why would you go to duplex range and stuff? So one of the things that happened here lately in the Houston, Texas area, a lot different than Dallas. Houston, and you have so much space. Houston loves to annex every area, so they're the controlling factor. So a little bit Dallas still have those pocket cities, and each city does its thing. But in Houston, it's all boiled down to Houston and Harris County. And so the growth in our area is just skyrocketing. And so we got under the bar in development. One of the things that has been so attractive here is multifamily development. That's what the duplexes, because it gave a better exit strategy for our developers because you're catering to the retail house hacker buyer who will stay in one side and rent out other. And you will also cater to an investor who will rent out both and just house their money. For a single family development, I don't want to say stagnant, but our price point where we saw that if we build anything under the 340 range, they will fly off the shelf. Anything over the 340 range, it seemed like we was competing with those luxury housing or single family home, and it stayed on the market a little bit longer. So that made all the developers shine into the multifamily space.
Yeah, it makes sense. So 340 is the value, right?
Yes, sir. 304,000. I apologize.
Okay. In terms of, it's fascinating. I've had a couple of people on, but the one that near and dear is Tony Torres. So Tony does a lot of build to rent down in the, I believe, Tennessee area. And in Nashville. And are we talking about developers who are interested in that? And the reason I mentioned Tony and his operation is because they do duplexes, and that's a huge part of their business, right? So is that the kind of model that we're talking about or something else?
Yeah, it's funny because we have a lot of people are getting into our space. Everybody is getting into the space, and now they're going in because a lot of times
because the hedge funds want to buy it.
Yeah, I told a lot of people was hinged on the flipping model where they find existing properties and stuff. The great thing about Houston is that our average size lot on the infill development lot was 6,500 square foot. Ooh, and so now with the influx of people from out of town, from California, from Chicago, and these different areas, is created a density thing that we need in these areas. And so now when you get inside our 3 loops or whatever, now it's the thing about, hey, let's utilize these larger properties and subdivide them. And so in the municipality, we would see a lot of these infill, what we call pocket developments, where we would do something like that. Now, when you go where properties that's already been replatted to from 6,500, 10,000 square foot, they already have it, and then you replat it again, you're limited to the amount of properties that you can do in that one pocket development. So what we've been seeing is our mid-sized developer who will be out in our outskirts, suburban areas that would do mass development, build to rent communities. We've been seeing a lot of those pre-pro, but mostly of our kind of mid-sized developers would do a scatter type of using the custom home model where you'll go and get these infill development, but still doing kind of a track and spec home development. You know what I mean? And so
sure do.
It'd be anywhere between maybe 2 properties to maybe 7 or 8, or even some cases 10 or 11, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah. No, the attractiveness of at least the build to rent model is there's multiple exits.
That's right. That's right.
You can make them condos. You can sell them to one of the residents or another investor. You can sell off the whole development to a hedge fund if it meets their criteria.
That's right.
Really attractive. It's interesting.
What I found in this space in the Houston area is because here recently, the values of our duplexes, literally the same duplex that I would be building in one area, our value has increase the equity in these properties, where we were just putting it on the market, building a 2,500 square foot duplex, total square foot duplex, and praying to get 350. Those duplexes are going for 479, almost 500,000. That value has made it where the philosophy is listen, let's get these things off the books. We're in the price where we got to build to sell. It's a short-term equity play. We do get a lot of clients that are coming that want to do the whole, but once they see the amount of equity that they're getting at this short period of time, they're just getting it off the books and then putting those cash reserves into other larger scale projects.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. And so in terms of your operation, I'm curious, how much of it is building for you and how much of it is developing for others?
Me and my wife, we have our own small portfolio that we do, and our goal is to do at least 10 to 15 units a year on our own. And so
that's awesome.
In the process of us doing it, that's when we came up with the business model, because with my construction background, we was like, hey, we need to develop this system, because we was getting everybody is coming in this space. But what we found is that there are guys that are these gurus that will teach you how to build, but they don't teach you or how to get doors, but they don't teach you how to create a business. You know what I mean? And so once you find out that it's possible to build, you get boggled down with being the GC. And so our motto is fire the guru and hire the GC. You know what I mean?
Love that.
So that you can scale your business and stuff. And so the business model that we created, like I told you, from concept to keys, majority of our clients will come in, they will use project management software. They can follow their whole project through our client portal.
Yeah.
They don't have to be on site. We outline their budgets and everything. We give them hard calls. We give them guarantees. We give them hard dates and deadlines and things like that so they can feel comfortable. But again, we take them from the front end. So we have the architects, engineers, and everything that they would need in the plan running to get them through those municipalities to get their project up and running. And then get through the development process.
And, something that you mentioned, and I am vehemently anti-guru, right? For the exact reason that you talked about. And that is that, and in fact, we're rolling out something in the future, but I want to talk about your masterclass here. The whole idea of, yes, I can hand you a checklist and you can flip a house, or you can develop a multifamily or a duplex project, or take on a multifamily project or whatever. They don't tell you how to run the business. And that is a huge disconnect. Gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble. And tell me about your masterclass and the cohort you have going on right now. I'm fascinated by this.
Man, God has blessed us. Our goal before going into the 25 year was to complete 44 properties just this year. And man, that God had blessed us that before we even got to summertime, we was already creeping past, and we coined 99. We've doubled that number, and it's just skyrocketing things. And so now we've already 100 before the end of the year. One of the things that our accountant and our lawyers got together, and we sat down and said, we need to do a giveaway. It's almost tax season, and it's something we're going to have to do. And so I was like, what better way to do it than giving away a home or whatever? But after our research, after the lawyers got involved and things like that,
they always ruin it.
They ruin it, man. But they scared with Jesus. You'd be like, well, ain't no use to even doing it. But all the research, we found that nobody in the country has given away a duplex. And so we said, hey, let's be the first to do it. Let's create something. We're just going to give away a duplex. And so when I just put that out in the atmosphere, next thing you know it, you just tell a couple of people that gets out there, and then a bank gave us a call. So Miss Belinda Everett from Prosperity Bank contacted us and said she wanted to be a part. And she said, you can't give away a duplex without giving a foundation of education. And so that blew our mind, and that took me to a whole nother loop. And I said, you're absolutely right. And so we got together. And the great thing about that is that there are traditional ways to do things in this business, right? But you as an investor know that there's a lot of workarounds. And so I tell people all the time, it's just like you get in your car and you tap into the GPS, and then it'll give you one or two ways to get to the destination.
Multiple routes, right?
But it's nothing like having somebody in the car with you that can take you through the feeder road, the back streets and everything. Yeah. There's real-time situations that can help you get to that destination. Right. And so when Ms. Belinda got in bed with us, this masterclass have just taken a whole nother level. And so we're merging the traditional ways of doing this game of real estate, from home ownership to development to being a big landlord, Fed's family landlord. And then we merging the non-traditional investor ways that I remember when I first started in this business, people were saying, oh, that's illegal. You can't do that. Or you can't wholesale, or you can't do this type of contract. From title companies and long-term professionals will tell you that, but having it all under one class, we're doing a 6-week master class that didn't cost the participants anything. They have to complete the master class to be a part of the running to do this giveaway that we're doing on October the 18th. And so on October the 18th, we will select one person out of the master class to be the recipient or the blessing person that we would give the duplex away.
Wow. That's really cool. Unbelievably generous too on both the educational side as well as obviously the asset is. It's incredibly generous, but I'm curious, and we're going to get into this in a little bit in terms of purpose. I'm always curious, what made you want to do this?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A motivated seller just filled out your web form. If you call back within 5 minutes, you're nearly 4 times more likely to get that seller appointment. But delay your follow-up by even just 10 minutes? Forget it. You're toast. Ella Vista Connect calls that lead back in 60 seconds, qualifies them, and schedules your meeting. Find out how much slow follow-up is costing you. Free calculator at ellavista.com/underground.
Man, as I said before, I'm a third-generation carpenter and concrete specialist. My family trade has been construction and some form or fashion of construction. I've been around tradesmen all my life, and I've known when I was coming up and growing up, being a tradesman wasn't the most attractive field to the ladies or to the youth. Everybody else, being a sports person or being in the streets or being other things other than being a construction guy or a tradesman wasn't the most attractive thing. If that was then, this is now. Now, being a tradesman is key because we need it more. And so seeing my dad work, fortunately and unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to have a 2-parent home at that time. My dad was a single father. My mom passed in an early age. But my dad took on that responsibility, and just seeing him work in hand day in and day out as a tradesman building. He took my grandfather's trade is doing concrete flat work, a lot of driveways, foundations and stuff. And then he built on that to build another skill and did the framing part, but he never had the wherewithal to take it to a business level. And that was commissioned to me. And he told me as a young man, hey, man, you're going to be in construction. I was like, no, I'm not. I will not do it. And come to find out, when my back was against the wall and other things I tried didn't work out, I ended up going to what I knew. And I tell people all the time is that just being exposed, you'll be surprised on how much is caught and not taught. Yep. And it was in me and it came out. But Ed, I'll be honest with you, that has been one of the most Achilles heel in me growing this business. My construction background has actually delayed my growth. If I can.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when we came in, when I tell people this story, in 2015, I started my journey. I left the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, that's NACA. I was an organizer for them, a housing organizer for them. And I said, man, I'm going to go back into real estate. I'm going to get back into this game of real estate and become an investor. I told my father, hey, man, it's time out for us just to be working for somebody. So I'm going to start flipping houses. I had a buddy of mine that he had a different field and he just had a lot of money, and he would just come and sit down and have a beer with me on the job site and just see me working. And he came to me and said, JB, one day, he said, you know what? I bought some land over here on the other street, and I think I'm going to build some houses over there. I'm like, man, you don't know nothing about building. He was like, watch me. So he said, I've been watching you now. Trust me, I'm doing all the work on this flip house. I'm literally doing the sheetrock, drywall, the floor, and the cabinets, everything. I'm doing everything on my own, busting my butt, working from sun up to Sunday. He'll call me and say, hey, let's go to Sawgrass and have a steak and drink and things like that. And I'll be like, man, I'm working, I'm tired, or whatever else. That guy, my friend, built 3 single-family homes, subbed everything out. He spent a bootload of money. I made more money, but he taught me a lesson. His lifestyle during that process, though he had some strains, though he had some bumps in the road, taught me something like, hey, man, I need to do a different route. I need to approach this business in a different way.
Yep.
A lot of people look at the real estate hustle, but don't look at the real estate business. And so I had to scale my business and get into a mindset of where I had to delegate and trust my teammates, create a team where I can really grow. you can get so bogged down in one project that it will limit you seeing all of the other opportunities that's out there for you and stuff. And so when I started removing myself, my business started growing rapidly.
Yep.
I started getting in the ways of guys, even my subs, thinking that they had to do it my way and that technology has changed and everything else. We still was over there with the come along doing concrete. So I had my guys with a come along, and then they came out with the pump truckers. And back in my day, we didn't have that. So we was over there just pulling concrete. And so all the technology and things, and just something that small just skyrocketing my business. Just, hey, letting these guys doing this, subbing out, coming up with a solid price point that is competitive in the market and a system that works. But there was no bigger lesson that I learned, Ed, than that. And then the second lesson is that when we talk about building a team, we never talk about, because we always say, build your team, have the best accountant, have the best lawyer, have the best subs, have the best mentor. But we never say, have the best client. We never talk about the right client. And so that has been, in the last 2 years, the thing that has skyrocketed our business to be able to examine the right client for your business. That is the best teammate that you can have, is examining the right client for you and being able to tell somebody who puts a bunch of money on your table that you may not be the person for me, and turning down that money or that job or that opportunity for better opportunities that work with you.
I so agree with you. Sometimes the best deal is no deal, right?
It's no deal. It's no deal. And when I learned how to say no to certain clients, because we're in the business, man, real estate is really the ultimate relationship business.
It is.
And you can do everything right and something could come up wrong. And so you need those relationships where people are not focused on the whammies, but focused on the solutions, and your business will grow. And I think that we're so caught up on looking for red flags in all ways that we can say, oh, I told you, oh, I knew it. Versus, hey, let's get over this hurdle. Let's get over this challenge.
Work the plan,
and let's get to the finish line. You know what I mean?
Right
and so those are the things, man, that has helped me.
Yeah, awesome. It's so refreshing to hear your perspective, because a lot of the folks I work with, they look at these deals like all the world's, that they're one big honking hammer and all the world's a nail, right? They want to hit every nail. And I'm like, you can't be everything to everybody, right? You got to pick your spots. Because you've got to create operational leverage, like you were talking about, in terms of being able to build a team, train that team, trust that team to do their job. But also from an operational leverage perspective, to be able to be okay with them doing it differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mantra here is, I don't need to be right. We just have to get it right. Yeah.
That's it.
And to be able to kind of step back and let your team execute, grow, thrive, grow again, and learn. Yeah, we have a rule here at Clark Street and at all of our companies that you don't get in trouble for mistakes the first time, right?
Yeah,
and because I fundamentally believe we learn more from not getting it right and then fixing it, right?
Yeah.
So let's hit on it.
Man, I have a lot of peers who come into this business, as we were talking offline, is that everybody wants to get in real estate. Everybody wants to be a developer now. Everybody wants to be a GC. And there's a lot of times, a lot of my peers will come in and they were like, hey, man, can I use your guy? Or do you got a plumber? Or do you got this guy? And at first I would offer everybody, but I tell people, you can drive on any street and you can find a development site, and it'll be subcontractors, it'll be materials, and it'll be a system. What separates the different job sites is the relationship that you have with the guys. There are sometimes that I have found my guys to make mistakes and things like that, and I champion not to get on it, because you got to understand, when you're looking at a house, you're looking at a multitude of companies that it came together, and you have to work in harmony to get this finished product. Everybody has different walk-arounds, backgrounds, situations, personal situations that come together, mom and pop stories and things like that. And you have to meet people where they are. So if you are rigid, coming from a corporate background and thinking that you will come to a job site and everything can be so concrete and timed and everything, you're going to get a rude awakening in this business. And you're going to think that you can just throw money at it and it's going to solve issues and stuff. And none of those things happen better than a relationship. And so I had a concrete guy made a mistake. And one of my buddies, I referred him over there to him, and Alfonso came back to me and he was like, man, your friend never paid me. And I was like, what happened? And he was like, he owed me $600. $600. And I called the guy and he was like, man, he made a mistake and he did this and stuff. I said, man, the amount of money that you're making over $600, it
Just
blows my mind. The contact and the relationship that this guy has done for you and all the deals that he did. And so you're going to hold $600 from that one mistake. He admitted that he made a mistake, but that $600, it impacts him more than it do you from keeping that in that mistake they made. Those are the relationship things that you have to grow through and maybe understand and look at the bigger picture versus that narrow-mindedness to that different issue. So those are relationships that we foster and recreate at JB Thibodeaux Homes Properties. Yeah.
Got it. All right. That's awesome. Hey, I got to start landing this plane. Let's get into the lightning round, the final five. You strike me as someone who is working beyond his own good, right? And for the greater good. So I'm always curious about when people like you who lead very successful companies, the financial house is in really good order, right? And the mortgage is handled, the car payments, even if they exist, are handled, the kids are taken well care of. And yet every Monday morning you get up and go to work, right? And so to me, that's purpose. And so I'm curious about what your purpose is. What gives you that kind of energy to jump out of bed on Monday morning and head over to the office or the project site?
I'm going to be honest with you. As we start growing in this business, I don't know what your audience would know. It's not like that every time. As we grow, you have the peaks and you have the valleys and things like that. And in this business, you have to understand the balancing act of how things go, because there's always another deal around the corner. And there's no better time than the time that we're living in. A lot of the old heads would tell you like, oh, it was back in the good old days, but there's no better time than the time we're living in. And so every morning I wake up, man, and my family is my biggest driver. And I fight against comfortability. Comfortability, I believe, is a curse. And every time somebody tell me, oh, man, you're doing great, you did this and stuff, it's the drive to get to the next level, because every peak, it seemed like when I thought I made it, I didn't make it. There was another side of the mountain that we had to climb. And there's somebody that is doing it bigger and better, and who I was like, hey, I wish I knew that back when I first started, and to expect in. And so I realized that's what I told you, 5 these gurus and hire the GCs, because there is growth in the business that we're doing. And there's always a better way and a more efficient way to do every project, every system, and every way you do your company and how you build it. So,
right on.
Yes, sir.
It's clearly you've had a lot of help, great team, but I bet you've also had a lot of mentors too. And so I'm curious about the best advice you ever got and who gave it to you.
My dad is my hero. My dad is my hero, and everybody can hold him up and throw a bunch of darts at him, but he's been my biggest hero. The best advice that he ever gave to me as a kid, and I tell people all the time, he said, blame me for everything that's wrong in your life up until 18. And then after 18, look in the mirror, blame yourself.
That's really good advice.
And so that advice I live with every day, and there I stopped taking the blame game from everybody and just take responsibility of what has created in me and the uniqueness that he created me. And that gives the accountability back on me, that I can make the changes that I need in life to grow. And then I stopped taking things so serious and realizing that if I'm able to wake up in the morning, there's another opportunity to go after it again. And that's why I told you that comfortability is one of the most scariest things to me, because I know that where I came from, and then I can't get no lower than that. So I think sometimes when we have accomplished those things, we're afraid to go to our wife and our children as men and say, hey, man, baby, that didn't work out. But the more I start getting accountable with myself and being more transparent and say, hey, we're dropping our balls and going after it. And if it don't work out, hey, but we made that attempt. Now we had to make some risk ratios. My wife did a good job and said, we can't put all our eggs in one basket because we have children, we have other things that we have to think of. That has been the best thing for me, to be as transparent as possible with my family and let them know what we're doing and we're growing.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a tremendous, unbelievably mature and impressive character trait to be able to own it.
Yeah,
that's what you do. I recently read, it was recommended to me years ago, but I recently read Jocko Willis's book, Extreme Ownership. And it is Will Nix is his last name, but
it's called Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership. Yeah. And he's a former SEAL, if I recall. But yeah, tremendous. It's very much in line with what you just described. So I think you'd enjoy that. Okay. So speaking of owning it, I'm always interested in teachable moments, right? And so I'm curious about professional mistake or even like a decision that you look back on years removed and go, man, I would love to have that decision back because I would ... And I'm curious, what is that for you?
I would say the too much focus on what everybody else doing and not focusing more on what God has blessed you with. I think that in this time and day, we tend to compare ourselves or our journey to others and not understanding that we just seeing the outside and not really seeing the inside. And if we just focus on our journey, a lot of guys in this business in 2015, because when I started off in focusing on developing this business was 2015, a lot of people that started are not here now. So the sustainability for that, they've gone and fell by the wayside and things like that. And these are some of the people that I thought were the movers and shakers and saw the bells and the whistles and things like that. And it will bother me down. Oh, I'm making this mistake and making that mistake. And I'll give you an example of listening to my hero, my father. He told me, I said, Dad, how do you purchase a property? I didn't understand. If I'm purchasing a property, a wholesale deal, or it's just for sale by owner, he go, what is the contract? And he told me, all you need is a quick claim deed and just write a quick claim deed and just give the man the money and go down there to Mr. Howell and he'll notarize. Well, I bought 23 houses my first year in real estate in 2015, and 6 of those houses, Ed, were with quick claim deeds, and it wasn't until I tried to sell them that I found out that in the state of Texas that quick claim deeds are uninsurable and they're not recognized as ownership. And so I tell people good information in the wrong season can be detrimental. So listening to the gurus, I went out and I bought all of these houses talking about I need to buy doors. And so these homes range from 8,000 to 30,000 to 20,000. So they was boarded up, beaded up, tax issue houses and different things. And it took me 2 years to recover from 2015. If it wasn't going to the courthouse and seeing that renters knew the game more than I did, and they know how to. I had one renter stay in the property for a year and a half before I was able to evict them rent free. It was the city of Houston attacking me and coming after me for all type of development things and building up. So the amount of money I was making, I was paying way more out every month, listening to, hey, you need doors, you need properties, you need to have these to rent. It was great information, but it wasn't my season. And so it took me 2 years to recover that. And so that was my understanding of learning that piece. And I wish it helped me now because I'm able to pass that information on to my clients and know the different types of deeds and go how to do airship and how to clear up, change the titles and things like that. Cause I had to do it all manually.
Okay, now you're an expert at that, right?
And now I'm an expert. So now I don't even need an examiner. When I go to a title company, I can tell them when I'm looking at the Schedule C and things like that, I see some of these things and I'll be, oh man, this can be cleared. I had to do all of that manually, but listening to my old hero Dave. Nice.
That's awesome. Hey, like you said, you're now an expert. So
yeah, no, that's a good blessing.
Thing. Yes. So I'm curious about how you take in information. Obviously, you've learned a lot from just doing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about how do you learn to run the business and create operational leverage and scale the business and all that? So I guess the bottom line is, what is that, either the book or the conference or YouTube videos or creator or whatever, who are you paying attention to these days? And how do you take in information like that?
I found myself listening to a lot of Audible. I'm a big Audible guy because I'm going back and forth from the job sites or doing different things and stuff like that. So I'm a big Audible podcast guy and just listening to things while I'm in the truck. And everything in Houston is 45 minutes away.
Right.
So
yeah, there's no fast way to get anywhere.
Yeah, there's not no fast. But I think the most impactful book that I recently read is The Miracle Morning. Yeah. And man, that Miracle Morning has changed my perspective in getting back to having that discipline starting my day, because I get bombarded with phone calls at night that tend to lean into the morning, and my day and text starts at 4 or 5 in the morning when guys are texting me on the sites and things like that. I had to discipline my whole life to get into a better schedule, to be able to learn how to shut things off into rest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that helped me in scaling my business, believe it or not. Having the whole discipline it's never going to be balanced for an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And sometimes the scale of a balance will look like that for an entrepreneur where you have one side. But from a mental standpoint and perspective for your wife and your children and people that you care about in your life, you have to know when to turn it off and when to turn it on. And then also create that discipline so that you can have that woosah moment in the morning. And I think that's my most quietest time. There's to get that miracle morning for me to wake up at 4:44 in the morning, get that hour and a half start where I'm just me, no phone, no anything, try to work out a little bit, but just have that time with God and just really sit down and recalibrate what's going on in my spirit and my mental, because you can get bogged down by issue after issue, and it can really stressfully just take a hold of you, man. And so that has helped me of recapturing my inner person to help me to be prepared for everything else that I'm doing with my staff and my team and my subs on these projects and stuff. Because it can be trying when you're dealing with people from different walks in life who may be doing this 1 or 2 times out of their lives. And so everything is emotional for them. And then it can get you emotional that you do it every day and not being able to see every file as just a file and as a number, or a house address, but to really see that these things are impacting people. So what we do is really purpose driven. And there's families that are going to be living in these units. There are families that are affected by these projects and stuff. There's families affected by the subs and things that we're doing. Yep. And I realized, and I had to reassure myself that every morning. And that Miracle Morning book helped me.
Without a doubt. That's an excellent book. If the folks listening haven't read that book, that is something that you should put high priority on your list. And it's interesting. So we manage our own properties here, and
wow.
I always, the thing that I always remind our team is, hey, it's not personal, right?
Yeah.
So even if someone is emotional, everyone's dealing with something, and you couldn't possibly know what it is, because it happens in their lives behind closed doors. And so you just have to give people grace, but it's hard when they're upset about something and you bring them, you introduce yourself into their situation, and then they're already emotional from something else. And then you come in and whatever, good or bad. But I always tell our team, our field team in particular, always remember everybody's dealing with something.
The lesson I learned was from an attorney of mine, Damien LaCroix, and he told me, he said, hey, man, it's not when we are in this hall and we walking through the county courthouse hall, and he told me, he said, hey, man, this is where the lesson, and in this hallway is not about wrong or right. And he said, we can sit here and we can fight all day about proving you right, JB, or we can save you money. Or which one you want, because nobody. And so when you come from that perspective, because it's not the same thing. And so he said, when you're a business owner and things like that, and that's why I say buy these gurus, because if you don't know how to have the right temperament and the approach with people and understanding different walks of life and being able to de-escalate a situation before it gets there, it may cost you. And it may cost you to the point to prove you wrong, or being able to know how to do some workarounds would be more beneficial than you spending all these money with these attorneys and everything else, because they win in the end and not you.
Yep. You can be right, or you can get on with your life.
Yeah, that's it. And then move on. And that's it. And I do that I run a portfolio. I remember when we was starting, when I told you that 2015, and I was trying to be my property manager and things like that. And we'd get emotionally tied to these situations. I say, I need a buffer. I need a staff member or somebody, because you can get bogged down by all these side stories, but then you got to also know you got to run a business. And you got to have some systems and have some margin ranges in there, being knowing what you're flexible with and what you're not flexible with. And then it's a case by case, but sometimes as you grow, you need to have some of these pocket, windows where you just say, hey, we can't get over those margins with our units and stuff. And so, yeah.
Yeah, right on. So the other thing that I'm curious about, but sometimes it's hard for people to articulate because they live it daily, but I'm curious about what success means to you in your personal life.
And I told my team 3 years ago, the biggest success that we had was that everybody that came in our office received the check. And what I mean is that we were able to pay. You got to understand, COVID hit the Houston market real hard.
Yeah.
We as developers were growing. And when I'm talking about permanent projects, when we're doing pocket developments and stuff, things were staggered. There were loans that we were in the midst of. Everybody wanted their money regardless, interest rates and everything. And that just delayed projects and stuff to get us to this point. But those times prepared us for these times. And I think one of the biggest successes that we were able to maintain and to have growth every year. And so when I'm able to see families smile and seeing projects, because I said you can do everything right and still something can come up wrong.
Sure.
There's still some people that no matter what you do, you will not please because they coming from their own understanding and perspectives and things like that. And you have to allow that to go along with your success. And the way we examine ourselves is our growth. Are we growing personally, professionally, and are we moving the scale like that in this market and sustaining?
That's fantastic. So when you're not talking about real estate or development, what do you like to do for fun?
Man, Ed, I'm going to have a secret that I have. My wife is Tiffany, and we're old heads, and we started over. I run on the weekends. We have 2 children that's under 3 years old, and I tell people
That's
that kids is a young man's sport. So if you're getting over 30, if you're getting over 35, hey man, I would say do a surrogate or a doctor, because if you're having these kids and stuff, you need the energy and the wherewithal, mentally and physically, just to maintain with them. And so that we spend a lot of time but I enjoy it. Though as much I complain about it, I enjoy seeing my children when I come home and the pitter-patting of the feet when I step in the doors.
Awesome,
to the weekend time that we spend with them together as a family has been my joy. And that's actually been what reduces the most of my stress is our family time that we have over the weekend.
It's the best thing you'll ever do.
Man, and the older kids, we wish that they was there present, but they go on doing their things and stuff like that. But when they come by and stuff, that it just make having that family time is the best thing for me.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Aaron, is literally the best thing you'll ever do.
And it helps to have your wife in the business with you.
I'm sure. So JB, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, sir.
If folks want to learn more about your business or get to know you a little bit, what's the best way to get in touch?
The best way to get in touch with us is to start with our website at jbthibodeaux.com. All of the information about our business and what we're doing at that time is on our website at jbthibodeaux, jbthibodeaux.com. And then hit us up on our social media at _JB Thibodeaux.
All right. Awesome. JB Thibodeaux, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really good to meet you, and congratulations on all your success. Continued good fortune.
Likewise, brother. Blessings to you and your family. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
This has been the Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.